Imagine this. You are sitting at a government office, your documents are neatly arranged in front of you, you have waited weeks, maybe even months for this moment. You are ready to apply for your passport. And then, out of nowhere, the officer across the desk looks at you and asks for a police clearance certificate. And in that single moment, your mind goes completely blank because you never even heard that term before in the context of a passport application. And you start to wonder, wait, is this even a real requirement? Can a police clearance certificate actually be used for a passport application? Does it replace other documents? Is it mandatory? Is it optional? And if I already have one, can I just hand it over and walk out with my passport application approved? And the truth is, most people who find themselves in that exact situation have absolutely no idea what to do. Not because they are unintelligent, but because no one has ever sat down and explained this topic slowly, clearly, deeply, and completely. And that is exactly what this video is going to do. So stay with me from the very beginning to the very end, because by the time this video is over, you will understand everything about the relationship between a police clearance certificate and a passport application. You will know when it is required, when it is not, what it actually proves, how to get one, what happens if you don't have one, and most importantly, you will never be caught off guard by this question again. So let's begin. Before we can even talk about whether you can use a police clearance certificate for a passport application, we first need to understand what a police clearance certificate actually is. Because many people hear the word clearance and think it means you are being given permission to travel, or that it is some kind of travel authorization. But that is not what it is at all. So let me explain this very carefully. A police clearance certificate, which is also called a PCC, is an official document issued by a police authority, a government agency, or an authorized law enforcement body in your country. And what this document essentially says is that based on the police records available at the time of issuance, the person whose name is on this certificate has no criminal record. Or if they do have a record, it states exactly what that record is. So think of it this way. If your name is John and John applies for a police clearance certificate, the police will search their criminal database, check whether John has ever been arrested, charged, convicted, or has any pending criminal cases, and based on that search, they will produce a certificate that either says John has no criminal record or John has the following entries in our records. And that document, signed and stamped by the issuing authority, is your police clearance certificate. And the reason this document is so important in so many different situations is because it is essentially a character verification tool. It tells whoever is asking that you are a person with a clean or documented legal background. And different countries, institutions, and organizations use this document for different purposes, including employment verification, immigration applications, visa applications, residency permits, adoption proceedings, and yes, passport applications. But the way it is used in a passport context depends heavily on the country you are applying from, the type of passport you need, and your personal circumstances, which is what we are going to break down in full detail right now. Here's something that surprises most people. The requirement of a police clearance certificate for a passport application is not universal, meaning it is not the same in every single country around the world. And this is where a lot of confusion begins, because someone will read online that police clearance is required for passport applications, without specifying which country they are talking about. And then someone in a completely different country will assume the same rule applies to them, and that assumption can lead to serious problems. So let me walk you through the reality of how different countries handle this. In some countries, a police clearance certificate is absolutely mandatory for a first-time passport application, especially for adults who are applying as adults for the very first time. And the logic behind this requirement makes complete sense when you think about it, because a passport is one of the most powerful identity documents in the world. It allows the holder to cross international borders, and governments want to ensure that the people they are issuing passports to do not have active criminal cases, outstanding warrants, or records that would make them a security concern. So in those countries, before you even submit your passport application, you must first go to your local police station or the relevant authority, apply for a police clearance certificate, wait for it to be processed and issued, and then include it as part of your passport application package. Now, let me give you a real-world example. In Pakistan, for instance, the police clearance certificate,
commonly called a PCC, is often required when a Pakistani citizen is applying for an employment visa for a foreign country, and the Pakistani government may also require it in certain passport renewal or reissuance scenarios, particularly when someone has been abroad for a long time and is renewing their passport through an embassy. In India, the situation is slightly different, where a PCC is typically not required for a standard first-time passport application, but it becomes a mandatory requirement for applicants who have previously held a passport and had it impounded, or for applicants who have a criminal record, or for people who are applying for an immigration check required passport under certain categories. And this shows you that even within a single country, the requirement can vary depending on your individual circumstances. In the United States, a police clearance certificate is generally not required for a standard U.S. passport application, but it becomes extremely relevant when a U.S. citizen is applying for a visa to another country, or when they are going through naturalization proceedings, or when they are relocating internationally and the destination country requires it. So the lesson here is simple but crucial. Before you assume that a police clearance certificate is or is not required for your passport application, you must check the specific requirements of your specific country, your specific passport office, and your specific situation, because the answer is never the same for everyone. Now let's go even deeper and talk about the specific scenarios where a police clearance certificate is directly required as part of a passport application, because this is where things get very practical and very important. The first scenario is when you are a first-time adult applicant in a country where it is mandatory, and in this case, the passport office will simply not accept your application without the PCC, so you must get it first. And the process usually involves going to your local police station, filling out an application form, providing your identification documents, paying a small fee, and then waiting for the police to conduct their background check and issue the certificate, which can take anywhere from a few days to several weeks, depending on the country and the workload of the police department. The second scenario is when you have a criminal record and you are applying for a passport, because in many countries, having a criminal record does not automatically disqualify you from getting a passport, but it does require you to submit additional documentation, including your police clearance certificate, which will disclose your record, and then the passport office will review your application on a case-by-case basis to determine whether you are eligible. The third scenario is when you are renewing your passport after a very long period of time, especially if you have been living abroad, because some countries require returning citizens to prove their good standing through a police clearance certificate from the country they were residing in, as well as from their home country. And this dual clearance requirement exists to ensure that the applicant has not accumulated criminal records in either jurisdiction. The fourth scenario, and this is one that many people overlook, is when you are a minor who is now applying for an adult passport for the first time after turning 18, because some countries treat this transition differently and may require additional documentation, including a PCC, to verify that the applicant has not had any juvenile record that carries over into adulthood. And the fifth scenario is when you are applying for a passport through an embassy or consulate abroad, rather than directly from your home country, because embassies operating in foreign countries often have additional verification requirements, and a police clearance certificate from the country of residence is frequently one of them, to ensure that the applicant has been a law-abiding resident in that country. So as you can see, there are multiple layers and multiple situations where the police clearance certificate becomes directly tied to the passport application process, and understanding which scenario applies to you is the key to knowing exactly what you need to do. Let's pause here and think about this from the perspective of the government, because when you understand why they ask for the police clearance certificate, the entire process starts to make much more sense. The government is not asking for your police clearance certificate because they distrust you personally. They are asking for it because a passport is not just an identity document, it is a sovereignty document. It is a representation of your country to the entire world. And every time you cross an international border with that passport, you carry with you the credibility and the reputation of your nation. So governments have a vested interest in ensuring that the people they issue passports to are not fugitives, are not under active investigation, are not on international watch lists, and are not individuals who have been convicted of serious crimes that would embarrass the country or create diplomatic complications. And the police clearance certificate is the most direct way to verify this, because it provides an official, documented, legally recognized confirmation from the law enforcement authority of your country that your record is either clean or disclosed. Now, here is a very important nuance that most people miss. The police clearance certificate does not guarantee that your passport application will be approved. It simply means that you have fulfilled one of the requirements, and the passport office will still review your complete application package, including your identity documents, your photographs, your application form, and all other supporting documents, before making a final decision. So think of the police clearance certificate as one key in a set of keys that you need to unlock the door of your passport application. It is necessary, but not always sufficient on its own. Another important point is that a police clearance certificate has an expiry, meaning it is only valid for a certain period of time after it is issued, usually between 3 to 6 months in most countries, because the whole purpose of the document is to reflect your current status, and a certificate that is 6 months or a year old may no longer accurately represent your current legal standing. So if you have an old police clearance certificate sitting in your drawer, you may need to apply for a fresh one before submitting your passport application. This is one of the most common questions people have, and the answer requires careful understanding. A police clearance certificate cannot replace your core identity documents, such as your national identity card, your birth certificate, or your old passport if you are renewing, because those documents serve an entirely different purpose. They prove who you are, where you were born, and what your legal identity is, while the police clearance certificate proves your legal standing and background. So these are two completely different categories of documentation. However, there are some specific situations where a police clearance certificate can substitute for or supplement a missing piece of your application. For example, if you do not have certain records or if your identity is being questioned because you lack some standard documents, some passport offices may accept a police clearance certificate as additional evidence of your long-standing presence in the country and your identity, because the police clearance process itself involves identity verification. But this is an exception and not the rule, and you should never assume that a police clearance certificate can replace your core identity documents without first checking with your specific passport office. What the police clearance certificate can absolutely do is this. It can make your application stronger, it can satisfy a specific mandatory requirement, it can demonstrate your good faith and transparency with the government, and in some cases where there have been discrepancies or concerns about your application, submitting a clean police clearance certificate can actually speed up the processing of your passport. So use it as a powerful supporting document that adds credibility and completeness to your application, rather than thinking of it as a replacement for anything else. Let me now walk you through the practical process of getting a police clearance certificate, because knowing that you need it is one thing, but knowing exactly how to get it is the part that actually matters. The first step is to identify the correct issuing authority in your country, because depending on where you live, this could be your local police station, the National Police Headquarters, a dedicated criminal records office, or an online government portal. And you should check your government's official website to find the exact office or department responsible for issuing PCCs. The second step is to gather your required documents before going to apply, because most countries will require you to bring your national identity card or birth certificate, recent passport-sized photographs, a completed application form which you can usually download from the official website, proof of your address such as a utility bill or a bank statement, and in some cases a fingerprint form or biometric data. The third step is to submit your application either in person, by mail, or online, depending on what your country allows. And at the time of submission, you will usually be required to pay a processing fee, which varies from country to country. The fourth step is to wait for the processing period, which can be as short as 2 to 3 business days in countries with fully digitized systems, or as long as 4 to 6 weeks in countries where the verification is done manually through physical police records. The fifth step is to collect your certificate, either by picking it up in person, receiving it by mail, or downloading it from the online portal if your country supports digital issuance. And the sixth and final step is to verify that the certificate is valid, that all your personal information is correctly stated, that the official stamp and signature of the issuing authority are clearly visible, that the date of issuance is recent and within the validity period required by your passport office, and that the document has not been damaged or altered in any way, because any of these issues could lead to your passport application being rejected or delayed.
Let's talk about the difficult scenarios, because life is not always straightforward, and there are situations where getting a police clearance certificate is complicated. The first situation is when your application for a police clearance certificate is delayed, which can happen due to administrative backlogs, incomplete records, or ongoing investigations. And in this case, you should immediately contact your passport office and ask whether your passport application can be submitted with a declaration that your PCC is pending, because some offices will accept this if you provide a tracking number or a reference number from your police clearance application. The second situation is when your police clearance certificate is rejected, meaning the police have found a record in your name, and in this case, your certificate will either be denied or issued with the record disclosed. And if this happens, you need to consult a legal professional immediately, because you may have rights to challenge incorrect records. You may be able to provide context for old or minor records. And in some cases, records that have been expunged or pardoned should not appear on your certificate at all, so knowing your legal rights is very important. The third situation is when you are living abroad and need a PCC from your home country, which can be done through your country's embassy or consulate in the country where you currently reside. And this process may take longer and require additional steps, such as providing a power of attorney for someone in your home country to collect the certificate on your behalf. So even in these difficult scenarios, there are paths forward.
And the key is to stay calm, stay informed, and communicate proactively with the relevant authorities, rather than waiting and hoping the problem resolves itself. So let us bring everything together now, because you have just gone through one of the most complete and thorough explanations of how a police clearance certificate relates to a passport application that you will find anywhere. And what I want you to take away from this video is not just a set of facts, but a way of thinking. The truth is that bureaucracy and government processes can feel overwhelming, confusing, and intimidating. And that feeling is completely understandable because these processes involve your most important documents, your identity, your freedom to travel, and your ability to build a life across borders. And when something goes wrong or when you don't understand what is required, the anxiety that comes with that is real. But knowledge is the greatest antidote to anxiety. And right now, after watching this video, you are armed with knowledge that most people simply do not have. You know what a police clearance certificate is and what it proves. You know that the requirement differs by country and by individual circumstance. You know the specific scenarios where it is required. You know how to get one step by step. You know how to handle complications when they arise. And most importantly, you know that this document, when properly obtained and submitted, is not something to fear, but something to embrace as a powerful statement of your integrity and your transparency with the government. So the next time someone asks you, "Do you have your police clearance certificate?" you will not freeze, you will not panic, you will simply nod with confidence and say yes, because you now understand exactly what it is, exactly what it does, and exactly why it matters. And if you are watching this video right now because you are in the middle of a passport application and you are not sure what to do next, my advice to you is this. Go to your government's official passport authority website today, read the specific requirements for your type of application, contact them directly if anything is unclear, and begin the police clearance process as soon as possible, because the earlier you start, the sooner you will have everything you need. Your passport represents your identity, your opportunity, and your connection to the world, and you deserve to pursue it with clarity, with confidence, and with the full understanding of what is required. Thank you so very much for watching this video from beginning to end. Your commitment to understanding this topic completely is a reflection of how seriously you take your own future. And if this video helped you in any way, please like it so that others who need this information can find it. Share it with anyone you know who is going through a passport application. Subscribe to this channel because we cover these kinds of important life topics with the same depth and clarity every single time. And leave a comment below telling me which part of this video was most helpful to you. I read every single comment, and I will see you in the next one.